Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we have erratic price action over here in the cryptocurrency market. If you were to look at the board on the right side of my screen, which is primarily red, if you were to look at that 20 minutes ago, the whole thing was nice and green. However, just 15 minutes ago, we got the release of the consumer price index showing year-over-year inflation coming in at 9.1%. It seems as though traders anticipated a bad rating and anticipated prices to go down rapidly once that report was released, because there was a lot of erratic price action in the stock market and here in cryptocurrency before the report got released, in which we started to see, I'm looking at this just on the minute chart here, that we could see that the price of Bitcoin actually fell rapidly here before the release was done. So 19 minutes before the release happened, we saw prices fire all the way down. I'm sure shorters were shorting and saying, here we go. You got your broken trends. We're good to go. Short it. And then what did it do? It turned to the upside and short squeezed all of them, taking out all of these, chasing all the stop losses to the upside, and then went over and went in for the plunge here for Bitcoin and for the stock market. I posted about this over here on Twitter yesterday that we're going to get consumer price index figures tomorrow for June, which is expected to be around 8.8%. But one has to wonder if the trend changed in July as 30-day commodity prices have really tumbled. And I posted this picture that I took from over here on investing.com, in which you could see the 1 month price change here on commodities. But with this rapid rollover happening here in Bitcoin, the US dollar also taking a peak this morning. So the stock market hasn't opened yet. This is all pre-market info that we have here, but we can see that the Dow is down 300 points currently in pre-market. By the time this video gets released, we'll probably check back in on these numbers again, but we can kind of witness how these things happen so fast. So these numbers released just 17 minutes ago at this point, and we're watching the very quick reaction of the market to the data coming out. Yesterday, I'd posted over here on Twitter that we could see that Bitcoin was starting to break trend. There was actually a false release of a document saying that it was the CPI release that came out yesterday, right before the trading ended up closing for the day. And it was actually saying that the CPI print was going to be like 10.1, but you could still see that, hey, if that's a trend in there, that Bitcoin has poked below it. We know we've seen something like that happen before. Not looking pretty for Bitcoin after not being able to get through the 200 moving average on the 4-hour time frame. And then, of course, that correlation with it being the 200-week moving average right in there for Bitcoin as well. So without being able to get through that, what appears to be significant resistance happening right there at just north of $22,000. Just nothing really to get too excited about for Bitcoin. And if it's going to start another leg down from here, I don't know. Looks awfully familiar from what we saw last time. But last time, we actually looked at this as it was happening, that structurally we were looking more like this time period right back in here. So we've taken a big sloshing down to the downside. Is this going to be a long continuous range that happens down in here as the altcoin market is still on top of its 200-week moving average and on top of its all-time high? But the challenge is, of course, here with Bitcoin in itself is that Bitcoin's underneath the 200-week moving average. So Bitcoin's in its own world of hurt that you haven't seen here before, right? So take from it what you will, if you think it's important or not. One thing you could see over here is that once we really started taking out this level back over here, once we started taking that out, you could see things just really started getting momentum. It kind of broke it, back tested it, and then off and away it went. Over here on Bitcoin right now, it's still holding above, but definitely taking out trend. And the question is, will it hold these lows, or does it start really breaking and then off and away it goes right now? Too early for me to guess, and really on these short-term time frames, I don't really like guessing because you could get wrong all the time on super short time frame stuff. The reality was, even big time frame stuff, it's very difficult, right? We knew the top of Bitcoin was coming in up here. It was unequivocal confidence that the top of Bitcoin was coming in here. The obvious big challenge has been price action after that point. How is the price action going to play after that point? So I've tried to present all the things that I see out there, but it's obviously a very difficult guessing game. If you're going to look at the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust and what that is, right? The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is giving you an image of that. There's another one up and then down, and then you're over. If you look at the 2018 fractals that we've seen happen, it's a similar structure to something like that happening in here. But when looking over here at the altcoin market cap of the entire cryptocurrency market, makes you wonder whether or not that's how things are going to play out in here, especially with that Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance still there, right? It's like this, we've watched this for such a long time at this point. I don't know, man. That looks like enough time has elapsed. I think when we originally said this, we originally were like, okay, look, we're finally here now. If it shows us anything, it shows it would pause for like a month and a month, or maybe a month and a half. And I'm not sure how long we've been down in here now. We've been in here 26 days or so. So we're almost at a month now. And we still don't know if this means like big fall in Ethereum, big fall in Bitcoin, but like the altcoin market kind of stays intact, or it just doesn't fall at the same rate as Bitcoin and Ethereum fall at? Or does it mean what it has meant in every other circumstance of when those things break down in there, is that these were actually alt season moments that happen in here and rapid rises? So is there like a reversal happening in here? We'll see. And we'll see if it even continues to follow it. If it does play out like that in the end, we still don't know yet. I think the main thing today, of course, you got the CPI print, you got rapid price action happening over here in the market. And the things to take into consideration too that I'm thinking about right now is like what I talked about on Monday's video, is that at this point, Bitcoin is now down 74% from its all-time high at this point, right? So it's down 74%. It's down below the 200-week moving average. And then thinking of it from the perspective of if it does actually kind of keep going, right? If there's still another fall that happens down in here for Bitcoin to take it down even lower, you don't have historical reference points to go back to and look at and say that that's healthy for Bitcoin's long-term price action. The fact that there's been no retraces in here, the fact that it's just been straight line down price action for Bitcoin. In each of Bitcoin's previous bear markets, it was after a 70% fall came in here, there was at least a 100% bounce that did end up coming in for Bitcoin. So if this price does break down, if this price does go lower than where it's at right now, you don't have historical precedent to go back on and look on to say it's going to bottom at an 85% fall. You just don't, because the action of how it's behaved has been very different than that of previous historical precedents that have been set, in which they were organized bouncing with, you could even say these things were like A, B, C corrections happening in here, A, B, C corrections, in which you don't have that here. You have straight line down. You go down even further in there, you just don't have technical structure in here mimicking that of what previous ones have had. So if you are a long-term believer in Bitcoin, but at the same time cheering for it to break down to buy it, just know that, we don't have structural behavior in this market right now that has been set by a previous precedent by Bitcoin. So we'll see if this thing gains some more momentum today. At this point now, we can see that the stock market has opened. The Dow Jones has opened. It opened up right at about 400 points down. Right now, it's down about 261. It as well is holding these levels, right? Like it's Bitcoin, crypto, all of it. It's like the same thing. This is the same time frame, right? So we talk about how crypto being tied to the stock market. We know where we're at there. So like looking at the stock market too, right? We say, all right, here's this low down here. If we're talking about Bitcoin breaking down and going off into a new low as well, well, what are the things over here on the stock market if that were to happen, right? If you were to go get new lows taken out and big breakdowns happening here, we'd also see the break of the 200-week moving average in the stock market, one would think, if that's the course that we're heading at. And if the course of that is where we're headed, then things are likely far, far worse out there than just crypto, but in everything as well. So today's rapid price action, of course, is being attributed to the inflation report that came out today. It will now be another month until we get the CPI report for July, so the moment that we're living in right now. And so that report that we saw today with 9.1% inflation, it contains a lot of things. It doesn't just contain these commodities. It contains rent and energy and all this stuff. But one has to wonder, right? We see the trend changing here on the 1 month time frame here for a lot of commodities. And I'm wondering if we've actually seen peak inflation. And we know we're looking at backwards data, right? So we're looking at June data here for CPI, and it's not going to contain this 1 month change in commodity prices. And then what happens, producers have to buy these things, and then it gets passed on to consumers. So there's a chain reaction that happens in there before the lower prices get passed on to the consumer. But these aren't baby numbers that we're seeing here changing for the 1 month. So I am curious if this CPI prints, if today was like the highest one, we'll see 9.1. I am going to guess today was probably the highest CPI print we'll see, because when we look at commodities, we look at things like copper, which copper was up here in this range for 490 days. So for almost a year and a half being up here at these elevated prices, we can see the rapid change that is happening in here in the last month. None of this is reflected in there. This is speaking more to a lot of underlying things in demand, consumption, growth, and inflation. So I'm going to guess today was the highest inflation number we'll see. For me to feel fully confident on that, right, would be obviously we all know gas and oil. It's very expensive right now. It's always painful to go look at the gas prices at the gas station. I actually was eating dinner at a restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and it was like a nice restaurant. It was a date night with my wife. We had no kids with us. But right out the window and posted right next to the window, there's a gas station right over there, and the prices are like in my face. I'm like, this is ruining my dinner. Just looking at those gas prices, and I'm not an oil expert. If you look at oil experts online, they will, or follow them on Twitter, they're saying the underlying issues with oil and production and distribution. There's still a significant amount of problems out there with them. But one thing I'm interested in, as just being a person who looks at charts, is what will happen with the prices right here. We talked about this last week. This was back in 2014. There was Russia and Ukraine stuff going on back then. Prices broke down on the price per barrel of oil. And then it was once we got back in here, this is also again where we get Russia and Ukraine once again. It gets a big, massive breakout from that price level. We can now see we've tested it twice in here. Yesterday we were dipping down. We actually got down to $93 per barrel of oil. But that whole supportive region right in here still remains. So if you got like a clear break back below on oil, I guess we'd still see that showing up over here on gasoline prices, which we've seen gasoline prices in the last month. So going back to June 10th, you could see that gasoline futures have fallen by $1.15. That's not reflected over there in the CPI number, but we know in July, and I'm sure you all have noticed it, that may not be huge numbers, but if you're looking at your gas station, that those prices should have been coming down a little bit. And I am noticing that over there in my gas stations as well. So the big thing I'll be watching for too, to solidify my belief that that was the highest inflation figure that we'll see, at least for the near term future, is can oil break through that level? If oil can get back down below and convictively close, let's just say we'll call it right down here. If you can get below $90 per barrel in here, which yesterday we hit 93.73, get below 90, then I can stop worrying about that being like a supportive consolidation range and it just getting taken out. But yesterday we did see $93 per barrel show up in here on oil, and where it's currently at right now, it doesn't rule out the thing that last time we didn't see it play out for XRP, but it plays out all the time. And whether or not this is parabolic rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation happening in here, and that it still has more room to go to the upside. So in order to rule that out, just like with what we saw with XRP, take out that low right there, take out the low down here at $93, $92.80, and then also get down there below $90. That's another really positive sign for inflation coming down, I would think. But we saw all of the action and all the world events that took place right where they were supposed to, with that invasion showing up here right where the breakdown level took place at. And ever since then, that has been the consolidation level, is the invasion level. And one other thing is that we've looked at oil here, and it's technically still topped since the moment that we've started looking at this. But historically, looking at whenever oil has rapid rises that happen, they're just not sustainable if they're that rapid. And we looked at this one in here too, to say that, look at how this is, look at how the consolidations took place in here, and the rapid rise in it not being sustainable. So we don't know yet. That would be a whole lot more solidified if it did break below 90. And yesterday it did hit 93. So big day for inflation, big day for price action in the stock market, and over here for Bitcoin. Looking back to what happened in our last fall, and not to say we're mirroring what happened with our last fall, but what did happen is that trend was broken. By the time that level got taken out over here, that was like the solidifying moment of things really rocking and rolling. Right now, currently, we're still holding those things, even though that trend has been poked through. And as we can see for the stock market, it's the exact same story over here on the Dow Jones. Today, broke trend, still holding lower level from a week ago. But surprisingly, seeing some green return back here in the cryptocurrency market. We'll see how the rest of the day plays out with a lot of this chaotic action as these levels do still continue to hold. Now, I didn't get enough time to cover it in this video, so I'll make another video dedicated just to XRP. But it was a big day for the XRP community yesterday, in which Judge Torres denied the SEC's request to assert attorney-client privilege over the Hinman emails. So what a monster victory for the XRP community yesterday. Obviously, it's a monster victory for Ripple, but as a community, we're all cheering for Ripple because they're fighting on behalf of XRP, in which the SEC has claimed that XRP themselves are securities, which is impossible. You can claim that Ripple treated it as a securities offering, or that, the orange grows from the Howey test, but the oranges themselves are not actual securities. And today, when you go pick an orange up from the grocery store, or you go eat an orange off of your counter, that orange that you're eating is not a security. It was merely the behavior of what occurred to deem whether or not it was a securities offering. So I'm not here to fight over whether or not there was a securities offering done or not, but the fact is XRP in itself is not a security. So we're cheering for this case to wrap itself up. Big victory. We'll dive more into it again in another video, but congrats to the XRP community. And I'll check in with you guys again later today to talk all about it. And I keep forgetting to mention this in my videos that I'm putting out this week, that I will actually be off next week. I'll be off Monday through Wednesday. I'm going to be traveling next week, so there won't be any videos on Monday through Wednesday of next week. I have forgotten to mention that every day this week, and I need to remember to do that in every video that I do this week. No videos next Monday through Wednesday. So I will be returning to YouTube after this week, so I'll still be here the rest of this week, but after next week, I won't be back until Thursday the 21st. So I'll fill you guys in with more details on that later. But all right, guys, that's it. CPI print came out. Volatile day today. Bitcoin's trend is broken. Level still holding. Market was green all morning, went all red after the CPI print, and now for the most part, it's kind of back to being green. So volatility all over the place today. And still waiting as time progresses on what's going to happen with that Bitcoin plus that Ethereum dominance, as it's getting very, very close at this point to giving us a decision. So I remember when we originally talked about that thing, I think we said, if it's going to follow it, it could go until mid-July. Man, we're in mid-July. It looks like maybe from a technical perspective, a decision may be coming on that pretty soon. So we'll see. But all right, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.